Lena Hart had built her life on facts. Every story she chased, every truth she uncovered, had always rested on evidence, on something real she could hold on to. But that morning, reality slipped before she even left her bed. The name Noah Klein sat in her mind like a memory she hadn't earned, familiar in a way that made no sense. It wasn't just a passing thought. It felt planted, like something that had been repeated to her enough times to leave an imprint. She tried to shake it off, convincing herself it was nothing more than a dream residue, but the unease stayed with her, quiet and persistent. When the envelope appeared under her door, it felt less like coincidence and more like confirmation that something was already wrong. The photograph inside unsettled her in a way she couldn't immediately explain. It showed her smiling, genuinely smiling, beside a man she didn't recognize, standing outside a building she couldn't place. There was no blur, no distortion, nothing to suggest manipulation. It looked real because it was real. And yet, it didn't exist in her memory at all. The message on the back only deepened the fracture. You said you would forget if they asked you. It wasn't threatening. It was worse. It assumed she already understood. By the time she looked up from the photograph, the silence in her apartment felt heavier than usual, like something unseen had shifted. For the first time in a long while, Lena couldn't trust her own mind to tell her what had actually happened, and what hadn't. And the most unsettling thought wasn't that someone else might be lying to her. It was the growing suspicion that she might have lied to herself first. Finding Noah Klein should have been difficult, but it wasn't. That alone made Lena uneasy. People with nothing to hide didn't usually exist so easily on the edges of public records, and yet there he was, present, traceable, almost as if he expected to be found. When she finally stood in front of him, she felt that same strange recognition again, the kind that didn't come from logic but from something deeper and harder to define. His denial came too quickly to feel genuine. "I don't know you," he said, but the tension in his posture betrayed him. It wasn't confusion. It was restraint. Lena had spent years reading people, noticing the subtle differences between truth and deflection, and Noah's reaction didn't align with someone hearing a stranger's name for the first time. It aligned with someone trying not to remember. The photograph unsettled him more than her presence did. His grip tightened for a fraction of a second, just long enough to confirm that it meant something to him. When he said it shouldn't exist, the words carried weight, as if he wasn't questioning its authenticity, but its permission to be seen. Lena realized then that whatever she had lost, Noah hadn't. Or at least, not completely. Walking out of that encounter, Lena felt the ground beneath her certainty begin to crack. This wasn't just about a missing memory anymore. It was about a version of her life that someone, possibly even her, had deliberately buried. And Noah Klein, whether he admitted it or not, was standing right in the middle of it. The deeper Lena looked, the more her life began to unravel in quiet, methodical ways. It wasn't chaos. It was absence. A clean, deliberate absence that suggested intention rather than accident. 7 days were simply gone. Not blurred, not forgotten in the usual sense, but removed with precision. Her calendar skipped them entirely, as if time itself had been edited. The evidence of that missing week existed everywhere except in her mind. Financial transactions placed her in locations she had never visited. Digital records showed activity she couldn't recall. Even surveillance footage confirmed her presence, walking, entering buildings, interacting with people, but there was something unnerving about watching herself move without any connection to the person she remembered being. It was like observing a stranger wearing her face. Noah's involvement became less optional as the investigation deepened. He knew more than he was willing to say, but he also didn't walk away. That contradiction alone told Lena that whatever bound them together ran deeper than a single photograph. Together, they traced her steps to something that shouldn't have existed, a facility hidden beneath layers of omission, labeled only as Archive Unit 9. The name itself felt wrong, like something designed to sound official while revealing nothing. And yet, Lena felt a pull toward it, the same unsettling familiarity that had followed her since the beginning. Whatever she had lost, whatever had been taken or erased, she was certain now of one thing: it was waiting for her there. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It came in fragments, conversations half remembered, reactions from people who recognized her before she recognized them, and pieces of information that didn't fit the version of herself she believed in. Lena had always trusted her ability to piece things together, but this time, the puzzle seemed designed to contradict itself. When someone finally told her she had been part of a memory research project, she almost laughed. It sounded absurd, detached from anything resembling her life. But the details were too specific to dismiss. They spoke of experimental protocols, controlled memory extraction, and something called the reversion loop, a system designed not just to erase memories, but to reset them under controlled conditions. What unsettled her most wasn't the idea that such a system existed. It was the claim that she had created it. That contradiction settled heavily in her chest. Lena had built her career exposing hidden truths, not engineering them. And yet, the more she listened, the harder it became to deny the possibility that there was a version of her capable of something like this, someone methodical, deliberate, and willing to cross lines she didn't even recognize. The note she found later only deepened the fracture. Don't trust Noah Klein. It was written in her handwriting, with the kind of certainty that suggested she had believed it completely at the time. But now, standing beside him, relying on him, she didn't know which version of herself to trust, the one who had written the warning, or the one who had ignored it. Archive Unit 9 didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused, like something waiting for the right moment to resume. Every surface, every corridor carried a quiet tension, as if the building itself held onto the memories stored within it. Lena could feel it the moment she stepped inside, not recognition exactly, but something close enough to unsettle her. The technology inside confirmed everything she had been told. Rows of memory chambers lined the walls, designed with precision and intent. This wasn't theoretical work. It was functional, tested, and used. And as Lena moved through the space, she began to realize that she understood more of it than she should. Controls felt intuitive. Interfaces made sense without explanation. It was knowledge that existed somewhere beneath the surface, buried but not entirely gone. The recordings they found erased any remaining doubt. Hearing her own voice describe the process, calm, controlled, detached, felt like listening to someone else entirely. There was no hesitation in her words, no uncertainty. She spoke about memory as something flexible, something that could be reshaped, removed, rewritten. And then came the final realization: she hadn't just been part of the system. She had been its architect, and its subject. Noah's silence finally broke under the weight of everything they had uncovered. His version of the truth didn't contradict what Lena had learned, it completed it. He hadn't just known about the project. He had been assigned to it, tasked with monitoring her as both a researcher and a risk. What he revealed wasn't comforting. Lena hadn't lost control of the project. She had made a decision. A deliberate one. She had chosen to rewrite herself. The reason remained unclear, but the outcome was undeniable. She had erased something significant, something important enough to justify altering her own identity. Not just memories, but the foundation of who she was. The person standing in that facility wasn't the original version of Lena Hart. She was a reconstruction. That realization settled heavily between them, changing the nature of everything. Trust became uncertain, not because Noah had lied, but because Lena no longer knew which version of herself had made which choices. The note warning her against him lingered in her mind, conflicting with the man standing in front of her now, someone who had stayed, who hadn't walked away even when he could have. And yet, even as she questioned him, a deeper question remained unanswered. What had been so dangerous, so irreversible, that she had chosen to forget it entirely? The system activated before Lena could decide what to believe. It didn't hesitate, didn't pause for confirmation. It recognized her instantly, not as an intruder, but as its origin. The authority embedded in her identity triggered something far beyond her control. As the reset protocol began, Lena felt it immediately, not pain, but disconnection. Thoughts slipping, fragments loosening, the fragile structure of her current self beginning to destabilize. It wasn't violent. It was precise. Controlled. Designed. Noah's voice reached her, steady but urgent, grounding her in the moment even as everything else began to fade. but holding onto it felt like trying to remember a dream while waking up. The harder she tried, the more it slipped away. In those final seconds of clarity, one realization surfaced above the rest: this wasn't happening to her. She had built it to happen. The message that filled the room as the light intensified didn't feel like a surprise. It felt like confirmation. "Welcome back, Dr. Hart." And then, as everything dissolved into white, one last thought lingered, uncertain, unfinished, impossible to verify. Or maybe she didn't.